Fraser Ellis is the member for Narungga on the Yorke Peninsula and a few other parts as well. Fraser, thanks for joining us again on Flow.
Thank you for having me once again.
Now, you've got a focus on country health going into the next state election where you're running as an independent in this seat.
Well, I'll be running one way or the other, and it's just over 4 months away, 19th of March next year, so just wanted to confirm to my constituents I intend to put my hand up once again to seek their endorsement for the seat, and that in doing so we'll make sure that regional health is the focus of the campaign.
Yep. Now, just to pause there for a second. Now, you're just saying you intend one way or another. Are you keeping the door open to run with the Liberals?
Well, I've asked them to have me back. I'm under no illusions that I was elected as a Liberal in the first instance, and ideally would still be there. So I've asked them whether they will continue my endorsement as their candidate. But in the event that they don't, I will certainly be putting my hand up as an independent and seeking to continue the work that we've started on the YP over the last 3.5 years.
Yep. Now, there's a court matter that you're vigorously defending. You can say something about that in a moment, but it seems to me unlikely that they'd give you that endorsement given that's been kicked over till next year.
Oh, that's only a question they can answer, Rikki. All I've done is ask and made it clear that I intend to stand one way or the other, and that I hope to receive the community support and continuing my service there.
Yep, so does that leave the door open if everything clears for you, that you could, say, run as an independent, be elected as an independent, and then become a Liberal MP again, a bit like, sort of like Mitch Williams did in the southeast if after the election?
Oh, there are a lot of what-ifs there, Rikki. I just am focused on putting forward the issues that matter to the people of Narungga leading up to the election and hoping to secure commitments and outcomes on those issues to make genuine improvements to our community and cross that bridge first, and then we'll figure out the next ones after that.
But I guess the proposition you're putting to voters is you're running likely as an independent, but as an independent who could end up joining the Liberal government post-election if things clear up for you early in the term.
The proposition I'm putting to voters, Rikki, is that it doesn't matter what colour shirt I'm wearing. I'm going to be putting forward the issues that matter to them and seeking to ensure that we get the outcomes we deserve on the YP.
Yep.
That's the proposition I'll be putting forward, and that's the platform I intend to stand on.
Yep. Now, on that front, if you're an independent in the Parliament after the next election, at the first in the initial stages, you could have the balance of power, and there could be a few other country independent MPs elected. That could give you incredible amounts of sway on getting some results, for instance, on country health.
It could, and if it does, then that will be my focus. Because I think that country health is the most important issue to the people of Narungga at the moment, and it's been an issue for a lot longer than the pandemic's been here, and I think it'll continue to be an issue if we don't change something for a long time after the pandemic has left. So we need to, despite the improvements we've made over the last 3.5 years, we need to continue to work on regional health and primarily, I think, ensure that we have an even spread of doctors across the state rather than concentration of them in the eastern suburbs.
Yeah, now that on that front, we've got some emergency departments across our broadcast areas that have been running sort of on a standby status. They've got a registered nurse they'll call in on emergency because they're short-staffed. Where's the short-staffing concerns in the Narungga electorate?
At the moment, I should say that they're almost universal across the electorate in Narungga. Perhaps most critically in the central YP part, where the Maitland Hospital has struggled to secure locum services. The Minleton, which is a privately run A&E in a rather unique set of circumstances, is currently up for sale, and they're trying to find a buyer for that. It's unclear what that will look like for the A&E thereafter. Our Drossen Community Hospital, which is a community-owned hospital, is also struggling to secure the services of the local. YP part struggling a bit, but that's not to detract from the difficulties that are being had in Yorktown and Wallaroo and further abroad.
Now, in your press release, you've been critical of this reliance on locum doctors. You say you're going to come out with some policies closer to the election, but do you have some solution in mind about how we move away from relying on locums?
Well, I should start by saying it's not a sustainable model, paying well over $2,000 a day for a temporary one-day doctor. You don't get the continuity of service that people expect or want. You don't get people invested in their, and I don't mean to detract from the work that they do, but you don't get doctors that are invested in the community and invested in their work and show the level of care that perhaps they would if they were living in the community and had to see those members of the community on a day-to-day basis. So there's certainly shortcomings in the local model. I am consulting with regional doctors at the moment about some ideas that I have had that I think will make an immediate improvement to regional health. They haven't quite got all the consultation back yet, and I'm not quite ready to release it, but I am working on some ideas that I hope will make immediate improvements to regional health.
No problem. So we'll hear about those in a little while. But one of the issues we've been covering here on Flow has been the over-representation of staff that won't disclose their vaccination status on COVID-19 or won't get vaccinated in the regions, as in there's a lot more in the country than in the city. Is that producing short staffing in your areas in the doctor and nursing fraternity?
Well, I went to the local health network public meeting relatively recently, and they suggested there were 15 nurses and health staff across the Yorke and Northern local health network that had made their decision to not get vaccinated just yet. So there's 15 more that are not working in the hospital system. Probably, if anything, just exacerbated an issue we have in getting good staff, nurses and doctors, all health staff, out to the region. So
yeah, and we consulted with the Nursing and Midwifery Federation on that front, and they said, look, the system was already stretched before people were knocking out because they wouldn't get vaccinated. The SA Health Department claims they've got it covered. They've been planning for that scenario and they'll have adequate coverage. Is there adequate coverage in country health in your electorate at the moment?
Well, I have genuine concerns that they are not, and 15 more out of the system is 15 that we didn't need to be, 15 that we ideally wouldn't have had left the system. So I've got genuine concerns that there's not adequate coverage, and that will form indirectly part of the plans that I'll put out in due course.
Now, just lastly, I think we've talked about this one before, but last we checked, these emergency powers that the government's relying upon to provide pandemic restrictions in the state, Victoria's got a hot debate going on about making them permanent, but these expire, I think, because of Troy Bell's amendments that passed the lower house, I think with your support, or maybe you abstained. You can explain that in a tick, but these powers expire in December. Do you think they should kick on any longer?
Well, it's a difficult one. I suspect they need to be in place whilst we open the borders and deal with the influx of travellers from interstate who may or may not bring the COVID virus with them. So I suspect they need to be in place for the immediate term. I certainly don't want to see them in place indefinitely, but I suspect they'll need to be there in the short term. So I know there are extra sitting weeks coming up now, so there'll be an opportunity to review those powers going forward.
Yeah, and just on those extra sitting weeks, how many more has Independent Speaker Dan Cregan set down at this stage that you're aware of? Are we going to be going on into, say, February next year?
Unsure at this stage. He's foreshadowed that there would be extra sitting days yesterday, but I haven't received any official correspondence outline what those days might be yet.
Because the Parliament's meant to rise, I think, at the end of this week, and there's an optional one in December. Is the optional one being taken up as far as you're aware?
It looks likely, but again, I haven't received any official correspondence confirming that. That's correct. This was meant to be the last sitting week this week, and now it looks likely that the optional sitting week in early December, late November, early December will be taken up. So, anyway, I haven't received any official correspondence yet, but it certainly looks like we'll have some extra sitting weeks that will provide opportunity for oversight of those emergency powers and review of how long they need to run for.
Fraser Ellis, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing what you've got to say about what's happening in Parliament this week.
Thanks for having me once again, Rikki. Appreciate it.